Anton, be honest. You know you drank up all that beer and all that tequila pretty much by yourself, okay? Hey y'all, it's your captain for all things creative coming at you with the Love is Blind Season 9, Episode 10 and 11 review. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you're returning, thank you so much for rocking with us. And please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed yet and you came back because it will help the channel greatly. And it's hard times, so support your girl, support one another in any way that we can. So it's free to support me by just subbing, and let us get into these characters, because like obviously we don't know these people personally, but it's a very interesting season to study, what our couples and newly singles in this episode are gonna be putting down. So I think I want to start with Annie and Nick, because this is a couple that had all the writings on the wall for things not lasting, because the foundation, started in lies. And Annie really showed out this episode. In fact, Annie showed out so much that I was on Nick's side even more than I wanted to be. Because from the beginning of the season, he's been lying and caught saying and doing all these things that, make me question his intentions. But at the end of the day, Annie makes even less sense than Nick. And actually, Annie and Madison move really similarly to me, because they both act overly dramatic, and argue and talk and cry in circles about non issues, or rather, they have other issues that they're not speaking about, so they turn mountains into molehills to get their feelings out, but in an unproductive way. But Annie might be a higher level boss villain than Madison, because Annie adds belittling to her dramatic Karen antics, whereas Madison usually ends her episodes with crying. And really, Nick has been on the receiving end of Annie's negativity a little too many times for him, because, she got into it with him on the honeymoon when she was basically saying she don't need him. And then again, she gets into it with him about, I don't even remember what, to be honest. And I think it was her, again, not processing correctly how she felt about the cast meetup. And I think she might have wanted Brendan or Brandon or whatever to talk to her, but then he kind of paid her more dust than I thought he would. Um, and she had to basically just watch Nick and Kate kind of get closure from each other. And Nick giving Kate attention, I think, made her upset, because she had stopped talking to Nick during that party. She was like stonewalling him. And then Kate also dropped a bomb to Annie that like nobody likes Nick. So I think in her head, she felt comfortable disrespecting and distancing herself from him, but that's not how a partner should act. And then even when they tried to talk about it, it was very unproductive. And then, Nick basically, by, the end of whatever processing, Annie had to do, um, he was like, "Listen, last night I was trying to eat my chalupa or whatever, and you was acting up, and quite frankly, I do not look forward to marrying you. We're not getting married, right?" And I'm glad that Nick is being honest, but again, it was all fun and games when him and Annie was being negative together about their imaginary child possibly being gay. But now, Annie really has been turning on Nick so much that he is seeing that either she doesn't have all her marbles, or she is truly drunk with the wine of privilege and entitlement so deeply that she really thought she could bully him and behave however she wanted to him and have him still consent to marry her. And it was really like creepy when, Nick was basically telling Annie he don't want her, and he said, he doesn't want to marry her, be with her. And she's like, I'm not asking you if you want to be with me. And I was like, why do you sound like the booty warrior right now? Like, it's like, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. You're choosing the hard way. Like, it was really, really bad. And Nick was like, listen, you can't force me to marry you. Like, you can't control anything over here. And she definitely, you know, really outdid herself with her negativity and literally tried to oppress Nick in a way by saying, like, I'm not asking you about whether you consent to me or not. You gonna stay in this marriage because X, Y, and Z. She started to give him a little speech about why he should, try being married to her because he tried everything and did everything, including like running and building gaming chairs and whatnot, so he should marry her. Like, it was just the wildest speech I've ever heard in my life. And at the end of the day, I'm not sure who dodged a bullet with who. Like, I definitely think Nick absolutely made the right decision to back out of what might have been a lavender marriage with Annie. But my issue is, I definitely want to know who was more, I guess, spared from like the worst case scenario. Like, say in the comments who you think dodged a bullet more, Andy or Nick? Because right now, I'm in the middle of leaning a little towards Nick as the one who dodged a bigger bullet. And I do think Annie did fumble things with Nick because he has coin, and if he was going to be honest, it could have been a fun lavender marriage because Nick does communicate well when he's not lying. But Annie, on another note, man, this is a hairstylist who can't even do her own hair. Walking around constantly arguing and having a nasty bullying spirit. And again, we don't know these people in real life, but literally just the fact that she wasn't accepting Nick's no was nasty. And the dry begging aggressively was hard to watch. So I just hope that Annie gets the help she needs with her hair and also with her self awareness, so she realizes her effect on people and maybe cuts down all the nastiness and negativity, because she was so rude and so nasty a lot to Nick, and Nick couldn't take it. And on the other hand, though, Nick was lying and a little calculated too, so I don't know. You all say in the comments how you felt. Now we'll briefly do Anton and Allie. Anton and Patrick being best friends allegedly was not on my bingo card, but that little tidbit of news came out when Allie's confronting Anton about how much beer he drank, and Anton basically tries to throw Patrick under the bus as having had some of the beer, but really it ended up that Patrick didn't really come over to drink up the beer. Or Anton rather, brought a beer down to Patrick so they could hang out. So it went from, Patrick drinking a bunch of it with Anton to just Patrick having one in his story and Anton disappearing, I guess, two different 12 packs and a tequila bottle that was half full. I guess a handle that was half full, according to Allie. And it's all shocking. Like, I'm sober myself, so I know how hard it is to admit that you have a problem. And just the fact that Anton was willing to be like, actually, if I'm not the man for you, that's okay. Like, he was almost willing to end the marriage rather than acknowledge that he had a drinking problem. But I'm glad that Ali stood on business. I was like, listen, you're not going to deflect or flip this on anybody. We're not talking about my cleaning. We're not talking about me telling you what to do. We're talking about you being a grown man and you need to figure out if you have a drinking problem or not. And I hope they do figure it out. They both looked good at the wedding clothes fitting. Allie looked great in both dresses, so I think they'll make it down the aisle, but Anton definitely has to deal with his drinking problem if he has one. Okay, so let's talk about Sparkle, Megan, and Jordan in episode 10. We finally get to meet Jordan's parents, and they're very sweet. They seem like supportive grandparents. But like the standout moment for me in this episode was Megan being in her alpha female vibe and asking if she could get the parents' blessing to marry Jordan, even though typically the man asks the bride's family for that. So next thing that stood out for me, I guess, with them was the dress fitting. I didn't love it that Meg spoke more about Luca than Jordan, so I still wonder about their compatibility. And I still like them though, and if Megan's not that worried about their compatibility, I'm not gonna do it that much. But I definitely think that Jordan knows that he hit a lick with Sparkle Megan, so he's not gonna fumble the bag. And I think Sparkle Megan looked nice in both the dresses, but the first one was more sparkly to me. And the women did it again where they were like really complimenting Meg about her butt. And I don't know, I just feel like it's just gaslighting people when the producers put those comments in there because Megan is she's in shape but she's like super thin, so it's like again they're picking up features of full figured women on a real thin person, but the actual thick people, again, like Madison, who we'll talk about shortly, are really getting raked through the coals about their looks, which is very sad. So let's talk about the Madison and Joe of it all. I don't think Joe was serious about marriage. Like, especially the way he's moving now with his podcast. Like, he already has podcast episodes and ads out about him reading mean tweets about himself, and it just is not even close to the reunion yet. So I just wish he was moving less thirsty because, like, it's giving that he did not come on the show with pure intentions, that he just wants to use it to promote his little podcast. I think he is a funny guy sometimes, so he probably didn't need to do all this, to get a little bit more views up. But at the end of the day, he could be turning views away by how he's dogging Madison because this was not funny. Basically, Madison's family are just so happy to see her with a man who doesn't mind that she's gonna go blind. That they're like missing the red flag or the body language that shows that Joe's like not that into it or to her. Also, Joe tells this like very like calculated story about him being engaged before and leaving the girl at the altar. I was like, that's not the story you tell when you're trying to impress the parents. I feel like he was definitely trying to soft launch him running away from the situation to the family and Madison again, since she never wants to listen when he hints at the fact that he be having second thoughts. Like, she melting down, taking off the ring, crying. So in front of adults and the family, he's like, listen, I am a runaway groom. I have ran away before. And then they go ask him, you're not gonna run away again? He's like, basically. But that's what he did. So they let Madison try on dresses and whatnot, only for Joe to just be looking so sad and awkward at his tux fitting. Like, the way he was holding that tie was like it was poison. He did not want to let it touch his skin or his body. And he's like, don't even waste time digging up pants. I'm out. And his friends looked so awkward. And it was very sad that they broke up, but they needed to, especially for Madison's mental health. Now, Madison went on the Viall Files podcast, I guess. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw a clip of basically her saying that off camera, Joe did tell her about him preferring petite women or women who are more petite than her. I think that's the exact word she used. And she said that, when he said that she internalized it And y'all, she said she developed an eating disorder from that comment. So, again, like letting someone else hold the keys to your happiness is not the way. Ladies, anybody listening, please, you do not want to hinge your whole happiness and sense of self esteem on someone else and what they think. We really have to train our next generations to, learn from this and to do better and know that your value lies in you, not what people say or what they think. It's like you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You gotta walk in that. And Madison was not walking in that. Joe didn't help her, and it was just sad all around. All right, so last couple we'll talk about in episode 10 before we get to episode 11 is KB and Edmund. And oh, they're so hard to watch. And they literally have to, pick up the pieces from the little altercation they had at the kickback with all the other pod people down to the rodeo. And at the end of the day, when Edmund told his story about, the night and how he saw it with him just like saying a joke to Nick and Annie, and then KB butting in and, asking him how he felt and him just answering our questions. And, what he said basically was what I saw. And then KB does something called kitchen sinking when she's talking about her perspective of a story. First, she sets it up to Edmund that he cannot talk or interrupt her when she's giving her side of the story, which again, it gives bully. It gives like somebody using a gun to kill a fly. Like it's just like the force as which she's coming with Edmund doesn't match his energy or his processing or communication skills that he demonstrated. So she's just like rapid fire and telling him what he gonna do and what he not gonna do. So she's like, don't interrupt me, and she proceeds to add everything but the kitchen sink to the list of issues that they had on top of, the one sentence that Edmund said about her not saying nice things to him and him just basically answering the questions that she asked him. And I really feel like KB, as much training as she has, she's definitely losing patience a lot with Edmund. And this amount of patience loss is not good because, again, she is kitchen sinking. So when I've done that tactic, or I've seen other people do that tactic, it's more to rationalize or win an argument because she's pulling out all these issues that have nothing to do with the main issue at hand, which is the perceived disrespect at the party. And then she gives this long, elaborate, again, kitchen sink tactic story about how Edmund is only telling part of the story because one, she was tired and she was hungry all day, and she was the one shopping for costumes for the radio all by herself, while Edmund only had gotten his hair cut. So him, not helping her made her feel frustrated all over again. And again, it's like she just brought up all these issues like her hunger and the general feelings about, not getting help and specific feelings of being overwhelmed preparing for the party seemingly by herself. So it's like she added like 11 extra issues to the issue, from the pod altercation, and it was too much. So um I'm actually gonna do another video for episode 11 because I'm losing steam because there's way more KB and Edmund drama in episode 11, and we'll get to it later. So say how you feel in the comments about episode 10, and remember, you're the master of your fate and the captain of your soul. Bye.